Hello and welcome to the Infinity Saga and Beyond, an MCU fan podcast, our special, what I'm calling X-Men Examinations series here, where we're talking X-Men comics as they're coming out. My name is Jordan. With me talking all things X-Men is our X-Man, Ron. How are you today, Ron?
I'm doing great, man. The summer of mutants continues. We got off on a hot start with X-Men 97. We've had a ball covering all the Deadpool and Wolverine stuff on the channel, and have had, seems like everyone else has been enjoying it as well. It's been some of our most viewed stuff. So, hell, let's continue the ball rolling here with some really fun comics.
Yeah, our last 5 episodes have been in our top 10 of listens of all time. So just like we're riding a wave here. So thank you if you're checking us out. And yeah, we're going to be talking X-Men 1 by Jed MacKay, and we'll be talking Uncanny X-Men 1 by Gail Simone. Those issues came out, I think X-Men 1 was in early July, mid-July. And then Uncanny X-Men came out this week on Wednesday. And the goal here is kind of like what we do with Ultimate Spider-Man, and it's to talk about these things as they're going. But we'll be talking kind of like all of the X books that we are reading. Ron, I don't know about you, but I think there's about 22 of these X-Men books.
Kicking off with the Taylor Swift reference right off the rip.
But I think it's almost an accurate number. I think somebody said there's like 18 X-Men books or something. Like, that is insane, and I feel sorry for the people that are completionists and need to have every single X-Men book, because I'm not, and we are not going to be talking all of them. But whatever ones we do get around to, I know for this one specifically, X-Men, Uncanny, and then you have read Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll kind of talk a little Phoenix, where you can kind of catch me up on stuff, and then I'll read that on Unlimited in like 3 months.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's one of those things, man. It's just time constraints and adult things. It's impossible to get to all of them. So we kind of had to pick our favorites, and it doesn't mean that we don't like any of the others or anything like that. It's just, if we sat here covering all of them every month-ish, because that's about how often we're going to do these episodes, just sort of in a block like this, covering all of the monthly releases, they would be 4-hour episodes. So we figured these were kind of the two meaty stories to get into. So I'm excited. They started out hot for sure.
Yeah, and the way this is going to work, we're going to go a little bit of spoiler free for the first couple minutes here, let you know our thoughts and if we recommend checking out these issues, which one, if you had to pick one of the 2 or 3, which one you recommend somebody doing, like running out to get right away. And then we'll kind of pivot into spoilers and kind of talk about where we see the story going in the post-Krakoa era of X-Men. Can you believe at one point Ike Perlmutter was cutting X-Men books, and now Marvel's like, yeah, make 23 of them.
Yeah, they're just kind of making up for lost time. Although it's not really lost time, because they still had those comics out, but it's just an overcorrection would be, I guess, the better way to put it.
Yeah. That's the thing. They talk about, like, here's a perfect jumping on point, but we're going to have 50 of these, all right?
And it seems like, again, no direct spoilers yet, but it seems like there's a fair amount of interconnectivity between them so far, too.
I'm kind of surprised by that so far.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate that there's going to be certain spots of the story that we may be a little blind to every month. I'll kind of do my best, and I know Jordan will too, to keep our eyes open and see what's going on with these other stories. Like we'll talk a little NYX today too, because there's some connection in there with the main stories and stuff. So yeah.
Is that one you picked up?
No, but there's something in the ending of X-Men, the X-Men one. That ties into something from issue 1 of NYX that I've seen on Twitter. Okay. So we didn't read it, but we'll mention it anyway.
Okay, cool. Just as another heads up, my friend Logan, who's been on the pod a few times, has started reading comics. He got Marvel Unlimited with a special deal, like the $3 for 3 months, or 3 months for $3 each, and he's diving into X-Men, and he started with the 1960s X-Men run, and he really enjoyed the first couple issues he read of that Stan Lee X-Men era. So we're also going to have in the buildup of, this is something I wanted to do anyway, in the buildup to Fantastic Four and the buildup to other properties. He's going to read some comics for the first time, and we're going to come on here and talk about them in the buildup to some of this stuff. You know, I've been reading a lot more Fantastic Four because I'm in that mood since the leaked footage, you know, so I'm like, we're doing that. So that'll be more stuff that'll be coming down as well. X-Men, Fantastic Four, all that kind of stuff as we start building into these later MCU properties as we get closer and closer to Doomsday and Secret Wars. All that. So that'll be fun. Let's get into kind of the meat and potatoes of it, though. So X-Men 1 by Jed MacKay. I don't have the artist in front of me. Let me get that up so that way I can properly credit everybody here. But I guess go ahead, Ron, and just give me your thoughts on the main X-Men book, X-Men, the first issue. Did you like it? Still no spoilers at this point. This was penciler by Ryan Stegman. If you liked it, and if you recommend people checking out X-Men.
Yeah, for sure. So do you want to just kind of go each one spoiler free, really like comic to comic to comic, really quick spoiler free?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. We don't pre-format on this show, folks. We just kind of ride by the seat of our pants here. But with that said, yes, I definitely recommend it. And spoiler alert, I recommend all of these books. They all started out incredibly hot. I was a little nervous because of how much they were releasing all at once and coming off an era like Krakoa, which, we didn't read the end of because it got a little convoluted there at the end. But I would say maybe not divisive, but people feel very strongly one way or the other about it. So it was just kind of I don't want to say trepidation, but just kind of like, all right, let's see where they go with this. And the X-Men comic in particular did a really good job of sort of reestablishing things and kind of giving you the lay of the land. Nothing super spectacular, in terms of major like battles or anything. Well, there is actually, so I shouldn't even say that, but very much so a return to form, I guess, that more classic X-Men vibe of like the mutants against the world. That was kind of the main thing that I got from this for sure.
Yeah, and I'll come at it at a little different spot. I must have read this when I was super tired or not in the mood. I first gave this one 3.5 stars. Okay, I just went back out of 5.
Oh,
sorry,
stars.
My comic app has a 5-star rating.
Gotcha.
Thing. So gave it 3.5. I felt like I was in the minority. Everybody was really digging it. I went back and read it for this. And for whatever reason, it clicked more. So I just upped it to 4.5 stars. But this was something that, like, I guess my expectations were really high going into it of like, all right, brand new era. And I do think it wasn't as accessible as I think that it could have been. And I don't know, like, because like you said, I didn't read the end of Krakoa stuff. I tried reading some of that stuff. I read the Hickman Powers of 10, House of X, right? But that's where I kind of stopped. I read a little bit after that. And then I've just heard how like he had to, like, Hickman left, and then it didn't really follow through with the rest of what he had originally planned. So kind of sounds like a mess. And it sounds like it may have went on a little too far. What was that, like 5 years of Krakoa?
19 to 24. Yeah, long time.
So I'll go back and try to read some of that stuff, especially like I have some of those comics, the last few issues and stuff. But I was kind of like opening this up, having no clue the state of the X-Men at that point, just knowing Krakoa is gone, and then being like, oh, okay, this is an interesting, like, trying to figure out where everybody was and what they're doing.
They don't really send you on to my knowledge. They don't really like tell you that at the end of the Krakoa era. It's just, I guess it's, like they don't tell you where everybody ends up at the end of the story.
Right.
So
but I didn't know if they were, that's the thing. I didn't know if they were alluding to stuff in the past or, from that era or what, or if it was just like supposed to be like you're picking up 5 years later, even though that's not what it is. But you know, like how some TV shows will do that, where they'll be like, you pick up 5 years later, and you're like, they're telling you stuff, and it's kind of filling you in, and you're like, oh, we didn't see that. And it's like, okay, is that what they're doing? I don't know, because I didn't read the end of Krakoa. So it's like, you know, was I confused or not? And then reading it again, I read it after Uncanny and felt, for whatever reason, it hit better than the first time. So let's shift over to Uncanny. You do recommend it. I recommend it as well. I recommend X-Men 1 as well. But Uncanny, I think, for me, was by far the more fun out of these two issues. The team, I'm like, this is not a spoiler, but the team in Uncanny is just my team. It's the 90s too. It's Gambit, Rogue, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, right? Like, that's who we've seen so far. Yeah, she's on the cover. She's not in this issue. But yeah, like those are the characters that I grew up with, and those were the ones that were kind of landing for me more than I wasn't super familiar with some of those in X-Men, other than Cyclops and Beast and stuff.
Yeah, not a big Magic fan, were you?
No. The Gathering?
Yeah. We'll touch on her after, though. She was one of my favorite parts of that comic. But yeah, Uncanny, it's crazy that you say it's more fun, and you're right. But it's more fun, but set over, it feels like a much more grim kind of undertone to it. Like, there's so many things in this comic that are like, or not so many, but just as many as you can, establish this early on. It was just like, whoa, they really kind of gut punch you a couple times there. But but
that's fun too. Like, I guess it made me feel more stuff than X-Men 1 is what I'm.
Oh yeah. Me as well, for the record. And especially the opening like third of the that's just as fun X-Men kind of stuff as it gets for the most part. But like I said, just a lot heavier, much more distinct from the others in that way. Feels like it's going to be a lot more of an adult story. Even a little bit of horror kind of vibes in there. And Gail Simone herself even said that's a bit of what she was kind of going for, like a gothic horror kind of thing. And I didn't even know that when I was tweeting about it last night. But it was really good. And without being too spoilery yet, it was my unbiased favorite of the three, I would say, because my bias would just, it'd be Phoenix. But just if I was looking at them objectively, I think the best issue of them all was Uncanny.
And I'll say the cover is just a really great cover. So
all time, man. All time.
That's a great cover. Okay, let's move on to your quick thoughts on Phoenix, spoiler free, and then we'll dive into spoilers.
Yes. So Phoenix was really good. I thought it definitely, right from the first page, sort of captures that cosmic Marvel kind of feel to it. Like that same vibe when you open up a Guardians comic or like a Nova comic, which is ironic, no spoilers. But it has that cosmic comic that there's a tough one for you, a tongue twister vibe immediately right off the rip. And it seems like it's going to touch on some really cool kind of large scale kind of conundrums and deification and gods and stuff like that. So it's much different than the other two. That's for sure. And I'm assuming like much different than all the other X books that are coming out in this little kind of era that we're in. If for nothing else, because of the location, but I also think the conflicts involved in it and stuff are going to be much higher scale, I guess would be the best way to put it. But it was a load of fun and also had a lot of heart to it that we'll get into after. And as a Gene fan, I was super stoked the whole time and couldn't really ask for more, I guess.
All right, so that's your last warning. If you haven't read these and that worked on you and you said, man, I got to go read these, turn it off now. Go read them. Go to your local comic shop. Read them. Don't get digitally. Go to your local comic shop. Buy them. And it comes with the free digital edition, actually. So then you have both. But support local comic shops. Okay. Spoilers into this. Let's start with X-Men. That is canonically the first one, right? So this is all about Cyclops leading a team of mutants in Alaska, which is where they are. Cerebro has found 6 new mutants, but we learn that they're not children. Instead, they're 6 adults. And the big question is, how do these 6 adults activate their X gene this late? Cyclops gets a chopped off arm that Magic cut off, by the way, and gives it to Beast to test. So that'll be how they're figuring that out. Meanwhile, Beast welcomes the police chief into the lab and introduces her to numerous mutants, tries to keep her at ease. When Magneto shows up, it puts a damper on the evening. And then Cyclops and the team save Wolverine, who declines joining the team and leaves. That's kind of the big stuff that happened in this. We'll kind of get into the more nitty gritty here. But one thing I really liked about this is when they're kind of showing... I guess my favorite stuff was the Beast stuff, right? Beast is a favorite X-Men of mine. So that was cool. And then just the fact that the reveal when she's talking about the police chief, talking about how they have lost their factory jobs. It was a Sentinel factory, so it's like, Beast saying like, well, you guys say it's a factory. This was stuff that's killing our people. So I really like that little twist on it. And then of course that cool image at the end of the giant Sentinel kind of like frozen in the snow of Alaska over the town. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was. And it was cool to kind of show that I think Scott's exact line was like, so that they remember, something along those lines of why they keep the Sentinel up. And I thought that was cool because how many times in X-Men, no matter what the medium is, whether it's animation or comics, they save humanity from existential threats. And it's all like, yeah, the X-Men, they're awesome. Then the next issue, it's like, boo, no more mutants, kill them all. So I thought that was really cool. And it was also kind of cool how we were basically taking the role of Officer Robbins here. We were basically seeing things through her perspective, and through her, we were able to catch up on all the things the X-Men have been doing in Alaska. They're sort of growing their own gardens and their plants, and they're running these super secret missions and stuff. So it was cool to kind of be able to see through her eyes and get caught up in that way. Even if I know you said before it was, there was still a little bit of a disconnect there in terms of the old stuff bleeding over that you don't really love too much in a relaunch like this. But either way, I very much like that. I kind of like the dynamic between Beast and Officer Robbins. It was very kind of playful, and then when Magneto comes back in, it's like they set you up at first with the nice guy and like kind of soften the blow, and then they bring in Magneto to be like, okay, but this is how it really is, sort of thing. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a cool approach the way that they did that, to sort of let me think how to put it, like not have the show of force at first, be sort of warm and welcoming, but then have Magneto be that iron fist of like, if you guys fuck around again, you're gonna really find out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that line you were talking about of Cyclops, I want to be sure they don't forget what they owe us.
Mm-hmm.
As it's like this Sentinel that is like over top of the town that they had stopped. Beast was going to, kind of cut it up for spare parts, and he's like, no, wait, which is cool. Our team in this comic here is, Cyclops is the leader. We got Juggernaut, we got Magic. We have, I forget some of their names here. I'm not as good with these.
You're good. All the way to the far right, that is Temper.
Yes, Temper, that's right.
We've got Psylocke there, directly to the right of Scott. Yep. And
Olivia
Kid
Munn.
Omega. And yeah. And Kid Omega is the other one.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. You see, like when they announced this team, I'm like, all right, so Cyclops. All right, cool.
It's fair.
The cover, has Beast on it too, but I actually don't like the way Beast looks in this. I think he looks really odd. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I actually like it a lot.
Around his eye like that, it looks
kind of weird. Oh man, I dig it. I'm not gonna lie.
Getting adjusted to it. You got Magneto in this like fresh suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess Magneto, he's hanging out with them then, or is he just like, do we know?
It seems like he is sort of the. I mean, Scott is the leader.
Yeah,
But
but kind of like X-Men 97 type of thing.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And we also see. Actually, let me not skip ahead because that's uncanny. But we see the reason that Magneto would have to be sort of in that role in Charles's absence play out in Uncanny. So it's kind of cool that we start to see that. But yeah, I'm assuming that he's. I don't want to say in the council kind of role, counseling Scott and Beast, because I don't know how much they would really listen to him. But I think
Right.
I think it's more, we would rather have the mad dog on a chain in our yard than running around the neighborhood biting people, and we got to go fix it.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about X-Men 1?
A few things. So I really, really loved the dynamic. We got some short spurts of it, but it seems like it's going to be a comedic thing that they kind of build off of. The relationship between Juggernaut and Magic, how they kind of go back and forth, and it's obviously she's Juggernaut's sister. No, not Juggernaut's sister. Colossus's sister. So she's been used to always having the big older brother, and it seems like Juggernaut may kind of be in that role in this comic. So I really like the way that they kind of had that like brotherly, sisterly conflict thing going. Well, we definitely have to talk about the end of this comic too. That last
the post-credit scene thing.
I guess that's kind of the way to put it. Yeah.
So
the QR credits.
Yeah, if you haven't read this or if you read it digitally, that scene at the end with the 3K, right? Is that what they call them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a good thing they didn't.
They didn't spell those out. I guess that's a good thing.
I think that was intentional, though. I think it was very much an intentional thing, knowing that this is just going to end up with everybody wanting to wipe mutants off the face of the earth. So it would.
Yes, yeah.
It's a real life parallel that definitely kind of stands up. That's for sure.
It's funny. I didn't even think about it until I said it out loud. 3K. When I was just reading, because it's spelled 3 and then a K. Like when you're just reading that, like for me, I was like, oh, that's whatever. And I had to say it on here. And I'm like, oh wow, okay, yeah, that's not the KKK, but the 3K. No. This, if you read it digitally or if you are just listening because you want to know and you're like, I don't care about spoilers. Interestingly implemented in the paper comic, where it is a QR code, right, that you have to scan and it takes you to it to read it. On the digital comic, you just scroll and it continues it.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? I forgot to read it the first time. I know we talked about it. We talked about like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, I have to go scan that. I didn't see it or whatever. And then this time when I was reading it again, I got to that part and I was like, oh, I don't remember this. And it still didn't click for me until I was reading I guess it was when I was reading Uncanny that the QR code came up and I was like, oh, I will scan this one and read it, Yeah. And or it's when I was doing my notes for Uncanny, because I actually read Uncanny digitally. And then I went back on my paper copy and did my notes for this. And I got to that and I was like, oh, there's a QR code here. I forgot about that. And I scanned it. I was like, oh, it's that last page. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay, let me go back to X-Men again and figure out, oh, okay, so this 3K thing, the reason I didn't remember it is because I didn't read it the first time. I never saw it. So it's interesting because it's really just like a blank page with a QR code. It doesn't say like anything, right? Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't say like scan this to continue or anything. So it's like, you can miss it. I will say you can just blow right through it, which is what I did the first time.
I do like the concept, though. It's kind of a cool way to, again, like you said, to be a post-credit scene, if you will. I saw some people were complaining about it, and I guess I understand that there's accessibility issues and things like that. So I understand, but the page is also very much readily available, like online with a Google search.
Are we not thinking about the 99-year-old X-Men fans that don't have smartphones to scan their QR codes?
What's this black and white square on the screen? No, I guess not.
What is that? Back in my day, all the pages were included in the comic.
And pieces of bubble gum only cost a nickel.
Look at this. Inflation's ruining my comics too.
Ugh, God damn it.
All right. Yeah, so it has a secret organization called 3K. What do we know any of these people? Like, are you looking at the silhouettes like, all right, this is who this is who that is?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know all of them. So
let's go through it. So we got the Zealot.
Mm-hmm. That's got to be Cassandra, right?
Looks
with
like
that
her, yeah.
Big old bald head. We have the Doctor, who we see, not to go too far ahead, but we see in Uncanny X-Men that it is a Dr. Ellis, who is a new villain that they actually just introduced kind of towards the end of the
Krakoa.
Thank you. Oh, I'm good for one of those an episode. The Krakoa era, they kind of introduced her. We have the other layup is Namor. That one's very obvious. And then we ended off with our reference to NYX, which is somebody called the Krakoan. Like, that's actually his name as the character. His identity has not been revealed yet. There's been some theories, online and stuff, but given that we haven't read it, I don't even want to venture to throw any of them out there. But
so that's the chairman?
Yes.
Okay, and then we have the Means, you said his Namor.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they've got this sort of council. They're all sitting on the opposite ends of a giant X table, which I thought was a cool touch. And it seems like they're going to kind of be the core villains of this entire From the Ashes era, because we're seeing these villains pop up already in Uncanny and NYX and here in the actual X-Men. And I'm not really sure where Namor is going to pop up. Maybe he'll be in the Storm comic, or maybe X Factor, because that's another big one that everyone's been kind of on from this run that we just aren't going to have the time to cover on the channel. But yeah, it seems like this sort of core four is going to be the Orcus of this story. You know what I mean? Like the central villain on which the whole wheel of the story turns.
Yeah, and they were the ones behind the 6 New Mutants, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, and it seems like that's going to be what they're doing, and I'm kind of curious, and not to skip ahead to our our predictions thing, but I'm wondering if they're going to be trying to essentially build an army of these mutants with the dormant genes that they are activating in all these people in an adult life. If it's going to be hey, we'll give you these powers, but you have to fight for us and you have to fight against the X-Men kind of thing. That's kind of the working theory I'm going with right now.
Kind of similar to loosely the Ultimates going on right now with mm-hmm. them bestowing the stuff that the Maker took from them, right? Mm-hmm. And trying to recruit them to the Ultimates team, but you have the dark side version of it in this, where it's we're going to activate these X genes in you, but you need to fight for us, type of thing.
Yeah.
All right, we ready to move on to Uncanny?
Let's do it.
All right, so this starts off, of course, with starts off with the Doctor that you were talking about. She's going through the mansion. Right. And they're talking about making these cells, the rooms will be prison cell type things. She wants to burn down the Cerebro, right? All that kind of stuff. That's what we're going with here. Mm-hmm. And then it goes to Wolverine, going to visit one of his old war buddies in Mexico City. And, we'll run into Rogue and Gambit there, which is at the Pyramid of the Sun. And this is where we approach a dragon that is sitting on the pyramid. This is Sadarang. Is that how you say it?
So yeah, Sadarang.
The God Snake from Savage Avengers number 14 through 16. Also been in other things. I'm not familiar with him really at all. So I did my research there. He was an Asgardian dragon and a powerful sorcerer. He studied under Dormammu, which is, of course, referenced in this fight as well, and prided himself in being allegedly his favorite student. Fueled by greed, he hoarded many riches, including powerful artifacts like the Eye of Agamotto. He has the second one of those, while Doctor Strange has the other one. But Remy, of course, gets the eye and makes a deal with them. And I just really like the way that this panel looked.
Woo-wee, I'm about to make a name for myself here. Give me that eye of Agamotto.
Oh, boy.
That is a great shot, though. And we also get the shot, the classic Rogue and Gambit shot that we get in like every single comic ever of her. Yep, there you go.
Yep. Yeah, this is kind of almost the same picture we used for our cover of our like our thumbnail for the comic book couples. Right? Yeah, almost exactly the same. And I just love how she says my sexuality is 100% X-Men.
Same Rogue, same.
But yeah, this is Saturang here, the dragon. He also has a human form, but we don't see that in this. But we do kind of get some, thing about like there's something in your future. I am sure of the word in your hideous tongue, something ruinous. We kind of keep getting this foreboding, like you talked about in the spoiler-free section of stuff that's going to happen. That is coming down the line here. Even the kid, Harvey, that we'll meet mentions the Endling, right? And something that it's building to. So what is your kind of thought process on what we're building to with the Endling and what that could entail and what it mean for these three in particular?
So just really quick, I wanted to touch on one thing from that fight. I thought it was very cool and creative and very Remy, rather than just having them just all, beat Saturang and just everything's great, to have him make a deal with him, essentially taking the Eye of Agamotto while he's fighting Rogue and Wolverine, and then being like, I'll give it back to you in a year, but you're not going to do shit in the year until that. So it's kind of a creative and clever way to have them come out on top without it just being your classic, just, the superhero, the good guys win at the end of the day. So that was fun.
Yeah, go to Antarctica. Move to Antarctica. Don't eat anybody for a year, and I'll give it back to you.
No, it was very funny, and like I said, very Remy. So I like that a lot. The Endling. Okay, so we also get a few pages in this comic of Fawn. She's running through the forest in what we assume is Louisiana, down there where all the others are. And she's running through the dark, and this is kind of where the horror stuff that I was talking about came in. And she's being pursued by this entity in the dark with these sort of long, stringy fingers, and they really make a lot of use of the black in the dark of the colors in the panel and stuff, and it really kind of has that like Southern Gothic-y kind of horror vibe to it. I'm pretty sure the Endling is Cassandra, just the way she was talking and mommy, and
that's
like
what she calls her to.
She calls herself mommy. She's not Rhea Ripley. I know you're not a big wrestling guy, so that probably went over your head, but it's okay. It's okay. So I think it's probably going to be Cassandra, because it also seems like it's a lot of maybe like mental manipulation kind of stuff there. Like she's asking her, what's your name? What's your name? And it's not until she reveals her mutant name, that Fawn, that she's like, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. So I think that's going to be her. And I think the let me think here. I'm trying. So my head wants to say that maybe the Endling and Cassandra is like the final boss of this whole thing. And it's mainly going to center Uncanny around what's going on with Dr. Ellis. But it seems like I think the next issue is just called like the Endling, or the tagline is the Endling, or in the end of this issue it says like next issue the Endling. So it seems like they're going to address that pretty quick. So I don't think they're going to leave it a mystery for long or anything like that. And like I said, I'm pretty sure it's Cassandra.
That's interesting. Yeah, and if you ever run into Cassandra, just don't believe anything Johnny Storm says about her. Okay,
no,
she's actually a very nice lady. If you don't want to get skinned alive here, so let me see. The second issue. Yeah, okay. So we see kind of like the mutants that come in at the end asking for help on the cover, along with Logan and I guess Gambit and Rogue there.
They're calling themselves the Outliers. So these are
who are the Outliers? Yeah.
Yes. So these are mutants that we haven't even met before. I was like going in trying to see like, oh, is that Roberto there? And like just trying to see if there anybody we know, but I guess
Was
not.
it? Does he look like Timothy Chalamet?
I knew it. I knew you were going to say it.
All right. Who are the Outliers? From the Ashes continues as Rogue, Gambit, and Wolverine welcome a friend back just in time to face 4 uncontrollable and wild mutants in the swamps of Louisiana. But with the mutant community disheartened and fractured, will even the Uncanny X-Men be enough to stop them? Something huge is starting, and it begins right here. Of course, art by David Marquez. I forgot to say that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And he's I like the art in this a lot more than I liked the art in X-Men. So I've been I know I probably come across like a Ryan Stegman hater. I'm sorry. But I really like this art better. For me, I think where this issue really landed the most for me is in the Mississippi scene where they go to the hospital, the children's hospital. Kurt, of course, Nightcrawler, has asked for Rogue by name, right? We do kind of get a interconnecting scene here where Cyclops calls Rogue and says, "Hey, can you go out there and see him because Kurt's asking for you by name." And they go there, and he needs help with a mutant named Harvey X, whose biggest dream is to be an X-Man. He has a brain tumor, and it's kind of revealed he shouldn't have really been alive as long as he has been. And Wolverine kind of picks up immediately that via his high sense of smell, right, that something is wrong here. And Harvey does pass here, but he does get to meet, his favorite X-Men. He says these 3 are the top, right? Wolverine, Gambit, and Rogue. He's a 90s kid as well. He also got to say, "Oh my God, you are so hot" to Rogue. So
shoot your shot,
kid. Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, but it was very heavy. And then, like you mentioned, he passes away, and he's like having a stroke, and he's belting out the name like the Endling, and there it's coming, and like you have to protect them, sort of thing. And then he dies, and it was just. When I talked about the heavier tone of this, I was referring to the conversation we touched on briefly in the beginning of Logan talking to his war buddy who's on his deathbed. Just a very, very kind of grounded conversation. And then we get this. I never expected them to kill a kid in the first issue. At least like you kind of assume like in these big comic book fights that there's like casualties, but to see it so direct in this way, like it really kind of again felt grounded and hit very close to home. I was very surprised, but it definitely again it kind of had some of the, like, I don't want to say it had horror vibes here, because I think the main thing they were going for is that groundedness that I was talking about, that real life trials and tribulations thing of this child with a brain tumor and stuff. But like that's a classic horror trope. Like the person's dying and they're just like, you have to help. Like, so it was a weird combination of like sad and also like scary. And that's another reason why I think it'll probably be Cassandra, because there's a lot of, what did they say? His thing was like low level telepathy. Basically, if Charles is a 20, he's a 1. I think.
I think he said if Charles is a 10, he's a 1. Okay. Yeah. That's what I wrote down in my notes. So yes. I think that's what it said. But so he has some ability, but just very low level compared to Charles.
Mm-hmm. But so because it's telepathy,
makes me wonder if the tumor caused it actually, and maybe he's not a mutant.
Yeah, could be.
But
so that's why it leads me to believe that it is Cassandra as well, knowing that this other mutant sort of empath, I guess, if you will, picked up on this and kind of got this message. It just that's kind of Cassandra's MO right there.
Yeah, and plus he's bald, and so
yeah, which sounds funny. I know it sounds funny, and obviously he has a tumor, so he's
he's
understandable that he's bald.
Yeah.
But it could be an intentional like piece of I guess, subliminal imagery. Would that be kind of like the best way to put it? To just be like something you go back
something like
on
that,
and be like, or maybe not. We could just be totally just reaching there. Who knows? But
yeah, I mean, like, you know, it's just heartbreaking. You know, the parents weren't even there at that point, right?
Yeah.
Like, Logan asks where the parents are, and it's like, oh, I sent them home to get a nap. And he says, like, why? Like, this is like, Logan was picking it up pretty quickly here that this was about to go south. And, you know, the parents do get there and do thank them for all of their help and stuff, and that he got to meet them before he passed. It's just very, and it does kind of change Rogue's trajectory a bit. When she's at the campfire, she's either tells them or, you know, tells us in her thought bubbles and stuff, though, but like that she was that this kind of made her start thinking about the future and going forward, and, you know, who should be leading that next team, because she sees how important it was to this kid, right? So she's thinking of that and who should be leading them and all that kind of great stuff. So setting up Rogue to, I guess, be the leader of this Uncanny team, which I think is some cool possibilities with that.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And they, even in the fight with Saturong too, he's calling her like weak and desperate and stuff. So I think Rogue's sort of, I don't want to say identity crisis as much as it's like rediscovering what it means to be an X-Man in this kind of post calamitous world of, you know, they just had this horrible thing happen in Krakoa, and like, how do we pick up the pieces, and who are we while we're picking up these pieces, and as we move forward. I think that's going to be Rogue's like basically entire arc here, and it's going to lead to her being the leader, if not just of her sect of the X-Men here in Uncanny, maybe even the whole team. I could see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of weave these in and out. It sounds like when I was reading in the thing is like Gail Simone got to pick her team on who she wanted on the team. And I guess Jed MacKay got to do the same thing and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes forward.
They had a draft like we do.
Yes. So, all right, this is who you got stuck with. Hey, yeah, go ahead.
Gail killed that draft.
Yeah, she did. Much. Yeah, she won. Go listen to that episode, by the way. We drafted MCU mutant team when they get at it, X-Men, when they get at it, what our team would be. And of course, a draft means you don't always get who you want, but still, I feel like we had some pretty cool teams in that regard.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, and one more before we move on from Uncanny, one other thing just to reference when I was talking before about why Magneto would sort of be in that Ice Age Council, because we see in Dr. Ellis's the first cell that they have built inside the remnants of the former Xavier Institute. They have Charles like in a cell with his hands behind his back, or at least what I would assume is Charles. It looks kind of like his body frame and everything like that. And we've got a pretty good idea of where most of these like central mutants are now, except for him. So it would stand to believe that he would be sort of the first prisoner of this massive kind of prison that they're building here on the grounds of the Institute.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I guess fill me in on Phoenix and everything going on there.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the beginning, it very much has that sort of soul, being Marvel, of cosmic Marvel all throughout, you know, with the stars and the planets, and just everything feels so not of this earth. And that's my personal favorite, style of Marvel comics. So it really kind of spoke to me. And it seems like it's going to touch on Jean's sort of not coming to grips with the Phoenix, because that's sort of already happened. And it's more about her. So they established that her and the Phoenix are officially one now. Like in the past, Hope Summers has used the Phoenix Force. I think recently Echo even used it. So there's been a few people.
Yeah, Echo did. Yeah, during Judgment Day.
Yes.
Yeah, during Avengers, X-Men, Eternals, Judgment Day. Because I read that. Yeah, she was the Phoenix Force then.
Yeah, so they've had a few people kind of take the mantle, but they do a really intentional job early on in this one of establishing that nope, she is the Phoenix. They are one, and nobody's going to be taking this mantle going forward. So the whole story is told from the perspective of this little girl named Adonai. They're on this planet way out there in East Bumfuck, and it's being run by this religious cult. They are an offshoot of the church of church of, let me look at my notes here. They were in the Church of Universal Truth. They were in the Guardians of the Galaxy game. They've also been in Marvel Comics for a long time. But basically, they're an offshoot of them. They weren't quite agreeing with the church's messages and stuff like that. So they kind of formed their own sect here on this planet. And their son on this planet starts to slowly die. And the people the people that are in the cult want to leave, but the leaders are like, no, our son dying is a gift from our God, and we have to like embrace it. Basically, like kind of Jim Jones in these people, like forcing them to be there and killing them against their will. So Jean shows up, she saves them all, and sort of imbues part of the Phoenix Force into the sun to kind of breathe new life into it, and she effectively saves this planet. Then a little bit after, she gets a call from Nova, Richard Rider. So seeing those two on the same page together just practically stopped my heart. It was amazing. But she gets called by him because there is a space prison of criminals that is being sucked into this black hole. And basically she has to make the decision of whether or not to stop all of these criminals from escaping, or to essentially like stabilize this black hole. And the way that they phrase it is that she makes the mortal decision to stabilize the black hole, but allow all of these villains essentially to break free. One of them is the dark god Pericus, who is a villain that I was unaware of, but he's also got some play with Thor in the past and stuff, so he fits right into that kind of Marvel cosmic feel. But what happens is he crash lands on this planet that Jean just saved. He kills the father of the girl Adonai, who were kind of, is the narrator of this story, and essentially assumes the role as like the dark god of this planet. So basically, Jean saves this whole planet of people, and then by making the mortal decision, ends up dooming them in the process. So I think the main thread of like what Jean's journey is going to be in this is how does she square away, like now that she is a god for all intents and purposes, how does her decision making have to change, as opposed to, it's easy when you're an X-Man and it's just we're fighting the baddies and that's what it is. But when you have this power and this responsibility of being a god, the Phoenix, it's not as simple as just, we have to, every life is precious, because the lives that you do save, in this kind of grand way could end up leading to destruction for so many others. So it's just sort of, I guess, at its core, the central messaging of what we've seen a lot in superhero comics of like, do we kill, do we not kill? Only it's on this much grander sort of scheme, because we're talking about entire planets and entire civilizations here. So I think it's going to be about Jean, I guess, essentially, long story short, coming into her godhood, I guess would be the good way to put it. And it's just, it feels like it was made for me. I'll say that much. Obviously it wasn't, but if I like had to picture a Jean Grey comic in my mind, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done as good as I really thought this first issue was.
Interesting. So do we know like where we are right now with Scott and Jean? Like, are they on again, off again during all this stuff going on?
So we do get a right in between her saving the planet, the sun, and traveling to help Nova. She does have like a little mind meld moment with Scott where they have a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like reassuring conversation. He kind of just reassures her.
Okay.
And yeah. So that was a little crossover thing they did, but I don't really see this story outside of, maybe those occasional moments between Scott and Jean. I don't see this crossing over with any of the, the 3K stuff and all of that. I think this one's going to be very much off on its own planet, no pun intended.
So Pericus apparently first appearance, Thor #1, his voice in 1998, and then Thor 4 for his full appearance, created by Dan Jurgens and John Romita Jr. This issue, Phoenix, was written by Stephanie Phillips, and artist was Alessandro Maricolo. So check that out. Like I said, I'll be reading that during the when it hits Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what's happening going forward, because some of these books, X-Men and Uncanny, it seems like are going to be twice a month. Mm-hmm. So we'll be kind of figuring out shortly how we're going to approach the next episode of this when we come back to talk the second or third issues, or second and third issues, depending on how it's structured, when these drop and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to try to do this monthly instead of it being every 2 weeks or whatever by a certain time. Mm-hmm. But like monthly, coming on here and just talking the issues that have happened in between the last few episodes. And I'll be putting the cover of what issues we're talking about, like on the thumbnails and stuff like that. So you can prepare yourself and know what you're getting into. It'll be in the title and in the description, but that's how we'll be kind of going forward with it. So
yeah, overall, I'm excited, man.
Good, right?
Yeah, and it seems like we've got a relatively clear path forward with this. I believe what they're going to do is the main 4 titles of this, I believe, are X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, I do it every time. Is it Exceptional X-Men?
Yes.
The Emma Frost one. And NYX. I think those are going to be the main 4. Yeah. And we see 4 villains in those seats at the end of X-Men. So I think it's going to be a thing where it's like, maybe each one tackles a certain thing. Although maybe not, because we see, if my theory about the Endling being Cassandra is true, then we've got 2 of them in Uncanny alone. But it would also actually, with Emma leading the other team, the Exceptional. It's got to be
Exceptional. Right? Yeah, I just double checked. It starts September, first week of September. Is when that one drops. September 4th.
So knowing that Emma Frost is going to be the leader of that team, it would stand to believe that Namor is probably going to be the main focal point of 3K in that story.
Also, Kitty Pryde.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those things, and all of these, like we saw the first cover for Storm, and it seems like she's going to be dealing with Doctor Doom doing stuff. So I think I just referenced Phoenix, how that's kind of off on its own planet. So I think these main 4 are going to be the 3X of it all, or the 3K of it all, and all of these other stories are just going to be really good kind of ancillary pieces that may cross over here and there with the main ones, but aren't super integral to this main story they're trying to tell.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out, I guess. Because you can't have all of them intertwining, I'm sure.
No.
Because that's a lot. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. And to get the writers all on the same page and stuff is very tough. So
it's tough.
Yeah, but that'll wrap us up here. So next time we'll be probably talking at least X-Men 2, Uncanny 2, Gene 2.
Yeah, I think those will be. Let me pull up the schedule here. Yeah, so we've got, what's today? We haven't had the 14th yet, right? The 14th is next week. Oh no, yes, 14th is next week.
Next week, yep.
Yes. So okay, so we got X-Men, then Phoenix, then another X-Men, and then we get a week off of anything, and then we come back on September 12th. So I guess in theory we could either do another episode at the in that sort of off week, the first week of September, where we cover the next 2 X-Men and Phoenix, or we can hold off until that following week, the 12th, and just fit that other Uncanny in there. So we'll see. We'll work all this out.
Yeah. So I would say we're probably gonna lean on the 14th, maybe, because that'd be almost exactly a month from now. So I think that would be probably a good spot for it.
Agreed.
Because then by the time we release that one on the off week, and then Uncanny drops again right the week after, people are going to want to hear that. So I feel like that might probably work out for us a little better. Yeah, a little peek behind the curtain there. Okay, so yeah, that'll wrap us up here. If you want to follow us, I did just create a TikTok, by the way, sharing clips from our live stream and from other episodes like that on there. So you can find us on TikTok. I don't know, at TO Infinity Saga, whatever. Just search that. You'll find us. And
God, we are on top of the ball. I love it.
All the rest of the socials are in the description below, and in the description on your podcatcher. You can email us, marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com, for any long-form email feedback. Thank you all for watching and listening. Again, we appreciate the bump in listeners and viewers, and hope that you're enjoying all of this good Marvel stuff the same we are. So thank you for that, and we'll catch you next time.